Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Trade the Chain. It is December 4th, and this is our usual Friday episode, so thank you very much for joining us. We have a little bit of a change of format today. We actually don't quite have a hot and not list, but I'll tell you what that's going to be like in a little bit. After we hit the big boards, we're going to go into our sentiment radar, and really what this is going to be 5 names of stuff we're seeing from some social media sentiment and AI that's coming out that's kind of boosting things. And we'll give a little backstory to each and why we feel it's good or not. Those are going to be NEM, tickers XEM. It's going to be Theta, T-Fuel too. So just make sure you know it's T-Fuel. OMG Network, which is the recently new branded for CJ. Go ahead and say it correctly.
OmiseGO.
OmiseGO, OMG Network.
OMG.
And then after, what's that?
No one knew how to pronounce it.
No one did. So they had to just make it into like an emoji, OMG. Next, after that will be Voyager. And after that will be Luna, but we'll delve into those later. And then Ryan's come to us with a relatively important news item here from Brian Brooks from the Comptroller of the Currencies Office on some crypto regulation news, and we'll hit and touch upon that as well. But I'll let Ryan get to his job right now.
Yes, Trade the Chain is not meant to be investment advice and should not be construed as such. All data shared on the website, in the community, and in content produced by the service is for informational purposes only. This episode, of course, is brought to you by Trade the Chain. Trade like a crypto insider. It's an online community of active traders sharing ideas, discussing successes and sometimes failures with each other, and also a dashboard that provides sentiment analysis, real-time trading signals, and a lot of other info, including 1-hour price predictions based on historical data that we have. It's unlike any other community on the internet, and it's got a 14-day money-back guarantee. Please check it out, tradethechain.com.
Yeah, and then our next plug is for Market Rebellion Crypto. We've been live for just a few weeks now, but our community's been growing pretty fast. There's a lot of different services that are intertwined into this particular product. So each week you will get a couple different trade insights or trade ideas from myself or Monte on Bitcoin or various altcoins. We've also constructed a macro portfolio for the next year or two that you can check out with a couple interesting assets. We also have a charting platform that you can use, which has data integrated from Voyager brokerage. That data is not available anywhere else on TradingView. We also have member forum, live weekly webinars where you can ask Monty and I questions. So if you go over to marketrebellion.com and go in the crypto section, you'll be able to see all of these features and read a little bit more about our offering. And you can sign up today for just $1 for the first month. So like I said, our community's growing fast, and we're very excited to offer that to you guys. But
all right, guys. I was going to say, CJ, you were a step ahead of me. I didn't even have to say it. Let's go to the big boards.
Yeah, so let's look at Bitcoin. I first want to look at it on like a smaller term time frame, what we expect for the month of December, and then just one model I want to share with you guys that's been very successful at calling Bitcoin tops. So to give us an idea of where we are in the overall macro cycle, because I do believe we're going to 100 or possibly even 200K. But starting with the daily perspective, we've now gone to a price flip to a red 1 after some bullish price action to start the morning today. So kind of a bearish sign after reaching that 9 about a week ago. Now, something that's interesting and that Raul Powell and a lot of others on Twitter are pointing out is that we were on a sequential 13 symbolized by this letter D here, also with kind of a bearish green 9 candle. So we've been talking about this for a while, but it seems like more and more attention is growing on it, especially after Raul tweeted all this with the sequential indicator earlier today. He also made note that this is occurring on the weekly, and now that we're in the month of December, it's occurring on the monthly chart. So if I go over to the monthly very quickly, we can see that we are in our first 3 or 4 days rather of price action reaching that 9. So that is even a stronger warning sign that the trend will probably go below our current price levels. We may go up in the interim, but I think it's highly likely that we're going to pull back to below our current levels, probably about 17 or 16K. I don't really see us going anywhere below that though. But if we look historically, the last time that we were on both a red 9 on the weekly chart and on the monthly chart simultaneously was very near our top. Now, this candle went to only 11K, but subsequently we pulled back far below this current level. So interesting stuff nonetheless, but it's going to be something that we're going to have to watch out for over the course of December. So while it's definitely possible we could go up in the next few weeks, I just don't think it's likely that we will. I think based on the weekly and monthly charts, it's much more likely that we pull back to below our current price level and kind of hover in this channel from about 16 to 19K.
So
there's one
perhaps,
more model I want to show, but what do you guys think? Monty, any comments?
Ryan, I know you had a comment. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, so perhaps 15.5.
I hope it's not
nice.
55, just so we don't have to hear you brag about how your price prediction is correct.
One thing I actually did want to bring up, in all seriousness, is Bloomberg put out some research today that said they expect Bitcoin to, more than double next year to 50K. But in the interim, they're also expecting a rather steep correction, possibly all the way down to 10K. And they're saying that 10K is basically the new support level. It won't drop as far down as it did earlier this year. You're saying that you expect it to go down to about 15.5. Do you think? What do you think the likelihood is of it going down as far as 10K?
I have two quick comments on that. One is that an arbitrary number that they pulled out? Because I'd be curious with CJ and Monty to see if there's any substance behind 10K figure. Two, did they also mention when that's going to happen so I can get ready?
If we could all time the markets, we'd all have Lambos by now. But they're saying that just appears to be the critical support level based on activity from earlier in the run, where it was bouncing off that like 10 or 11K mark before kind of moving parabolically upwards.
Yeah, in my opinion, that's a very conservative estimate for the lowest possible price. Like I think CJ's estimate is a bit more in line. I think 10K like is the absolute bottom. If it was ever below 10K again, I would be very, very surprised. And it kind of makes sense when you consider, I mean, where we're at right now. We're coming up on these 9s. A pullback seems imminent, especially with the resistance we're seeing at 20K. It's a pretty strong sell wall there. So I don't know about 10K. That seems to me pretty steep, like a 50% sell off. I mean, there's just too much interest right now amongst institutions. I feel like they would gobble up Bitcoin at anything less than 16K. And I mean, we saw a bit of a correction. It was not necessarily anything drastic compared to what we've seen in the past, but Bitcoin did drop a pretty good amount there. I mean, look at that. It's about 18%. And it bounced right back. People took that as a great buying opportunity. And I know a lot of people are looking to increase their positions. So for me, if I think we're going to find strong support around 15K. And even before that, I think we'll find strong support around 16.5. But if it does shatter right through those floors, then maybe what Bloomberg is predicting could become a reality. But I just don't see that happening.
Yeah, they don't see it dropping below 10K at all. So they do agree with you on that. But I mean, that would be a rather drastic pullback. And I can't, to your point, I can't imagine institutions not doubling it. I'd be stepping in and buying at that point. If I'm doing that and I have a lot less money than an institution, I can't imagine why they wouldn't be doing it either, because the long-term skew here is obviously bullish. So I think.
Well, let's not forget, Ryan. We did have a very large half price discount on Bitcoin back in March, right? So it did happen. I agree with you, though. If we were to put it in perspective, even in that case, Well, CJ, back on Black Thursday, what was the price the day before the drop, and what was the bottom?
About 8K, and then the bottom was 3,800. But this wick only occurred for like 15 minutes. Like if you were able to buy it, you were extremely lucky. Like if you,
Well, Bloomberg didn't say you were going to be able to buy it. They just said 10K. But what I'm saying is it's also where the price levels are now and where they're analyzing it could possibly go is right in line with Black Thursday. I mean, it's not something that is, as crazy as aliens landing on Earth. So.
But also, Alex, right? That estimate is coming in light of also, S&P Dow Jones announced that crypto index that they're going to list next year. You have so many more on-ramps like PayPal and Cash App, and you have GBTC gobbling up all of this, all of the newly mined Bitcoin. Not all of them, but a significant portion of them. And then you have Guggenheim and Scaramucci at Skybridge. You have all these different investors that are now announcing plans or have already stepped into crypto markets that weren't there before. It has more support and there's more adoption.
I completely agree. The news that's come out in Q3 and Q4 around Bitcoin this year is completely different than any of the past years. And when we're talking about whether it's Bloomberg seeing it going to 50,000 end of next year, or to what CJ pointed out about a $200,000 mark, I think we're getting more and more closer to reality with those type of predictions. They're just being substantiated more.
Exactly. Yeah, they're much more substantial than the people on Twitter saying Bitcoin's going to 333K by the end of next year.
What, John McAfee spoke?
No, just the random crypto personalities on Twitter who have no basis in reality for their projections. They're just throwing numbers in the air because if you buy 3 Bitcoin, you're a millionaire.
And right? That's not what we're about on this show, right? No. Our show is about what are realistic expectations, what are as fundamental as you can get towards achieving those numbers. So. No, Ryan. Yeah, you're right. They're a bunch of clowns.
I saw that comment too.
Yeah, 50K is more realistic than 333K, and I took that guy to task for that, and then I was told I don't understand Bitcoin. That makes sense. So.
No, you don't understand markets. Like Alex, to your point, in March, like that was a fundamental event. Oil went negative only 2 days before Bitcoin crashed 50%. And that was a pure liquidity crisis in all markets. It was not isolated to Bitcoin.
Correct. Yeah.
Like it's not inconsistent. A correction to 10K is not consistent with what we've seen historically.
It's not, but then you're harping back to the unknowns and, stuff like, what happened with oil back then with having a liquidity squeeze and stuff like that was directly correlated to countries shutting down because of COVID and stuff like that. We're still not out of the woods with COVID. I can't say that we can predict what's going to happen Q1, Q2 next year with COVID. So from my perspective, there's always that unknown. Could there be another? Oil has not fully recovered from that. And, whether it's the futures or whether it's, WTI, it really hasn't. The market has taken 8-10 months now to work itself back up to the levels it saw before that. So I'm just being a pessimist here, but I do, that it could happen. It could happen on the anniversary of the last one, for all I know, as we go into that Q1 phase. Who knows?
So you're shorting oil is what you're saying?
I'm not going to talk about my oil position publicly because I would be fired from this show. But it dates back to before the drop in Q1. So, what do we have? What do we have going on Ethereum? How's DeFi doing? Does it have Ethereum's back still, or is something else going on?
Yeah, I'm long Marathon Petroleum.
Oh boy.
This is the DeFi Composite Index. As you can see, we were kind of rejected when we tried to break above this previous high. I still think this is a pretty bullish formation that may continue to go higher. That being said, if we break this trend line and then our previous higher low, not a very bullish sign for DeFi collectively in December, but we'll have to see. This one candle is still needs to close, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, and it's funny because we talk a lot about how, I mean, there's often a correlation between Bitcoin and Ethereum and also often the entire crypto market itself. So it's going to be interesting to watch, like if we do get this pullback that we're kind of expecting to 15K, where that capital goes. If it does flow into the altcoin space, I do expect a lot of that money to go into DeFi because I think there are a lot of great investment opportunities there. So I think that a pullback for Bitcoin in this instance could actually be really healthy for the DeFi market and yeah, Ethereum in particular.
Should that occur, what do you think is a realistic number? Because we've talked about realistic numbers for Bitcoin. What do you think a realistic number for Bitcoin would be in the wake of a Bitcoin correction?
I mean, what I would like to see from Ethereum is maybe a push up to above 700. I think that would be kind of a realistic expectation if we did see a pullback for Bitcoin all the way to 15K. I just think that there's still a lot of reason to be very bullish on Ethereum with all the projects being developed on the block on its network. And yeah, I think if Bitcoin does start to really draw back, I think people will look to other investment opportunities in the space. And I think Ethereum will be the main benefactor of that shift.
I think Ethereum will perform well if Bitcoin is neutral. But if Bitcoin begins to sell off and new money is not able to come into the space and people get afraid again, then I can't imagine Ethereum will do well either. I think we'll both see sell-offs as well as the DeFi market. So
you don't see 2.0 Beacon being a differentiator of enough to sustain the price?
Yeah, exactly, Ryan. I mean, what are we, we have 2.0 out, and just to put a footnote in there, I saw that Celsius Network was actually put in the last 25,000 of ETH to kick it over the edge that they needed. But with all the hype behind 2.0, did the delays kill the hype, or is this going to be material in some way?
I think it kind of already is materializing in a sense. I mean, we're up to 590 or whatever we're at now. I think a lot of that has already been factored in the excitement around ETH 2.0. I think at first we saw kind of a drawback when there was a bit of uncertainty around whether or not it was going to actually happen. But once it was looking good, we saw price spike, and now it's kind of a more sustained growth above 500. And I think this is going to be hopefully the new norm for Ethereum.
Okay. All right. Very cool. Well, I'm going to go next over onto the sentiment radar. Just a couple of interesting coins and some stories behind them. If we get to the coin screener page. So if you hit that 1 hour projection, toggle up to the top ones in ascending order there.
Sorry. Oh, here we go.
Oh, no worries. Yeah. There we go. Perfect. So this is our tradethechain.com platform. And basically what we're looking at now is the coin screeners page, which has different analytics to it, like long-term sentiment, 1 hour projection, relative tweet volume, and such. And so as I look through this throughout the course of this week and even today, and there's a lot of switching up, a lot of volatility within this, and a lot of news. There was a couple of them that have stood out. One is NEM, ticker's XEM. It's been making its way up and down in the top portion of the coin screener page for relative tweet volume, which has really started to increase. And not only that, but I actually, in full disclaimer, I own them, put a trade in on them. The social sentiment surge was soon followed by a 20% surge alone today, which puts it at a total of about 50% for the week. And as you can see right there on the screen, we have about 252% rise in relative tweet volume today. And just to give you an idea of what that number represents, it represents today versus 30-day moving average. So a relative tweet volume of like 50% up would mean that the coin's tweet volume is 50% higher today than it is on an average day. What makes this stand out for me is a little bit of news. So I kind of think this is a little event driven. They're launching the NEM symbol on their chain January 14th. It's been received pretty favorably. Basically what NEM symbol is going to do is be the analytical overview of NEM. So we're looking out for that. We're looking out for this price action to hopefully sustain itself a little while on that news. If you just actually joined us in, if you remember Trade the Chain, and just we're in our AMA earlier today, you'll notice that I'm reading off the same stuff that we did in there. Theta, T-Fuel. There's two Thetas. This is going to be T-Fuel. Has been on the top of the projection list of Trade Chain as well after announcing Theta protocol upgrades coming December 10th, including smart contracts to its mainnet. And if you guys have been following Theta, then you already know it's a decentralized version for streaming videos. It's like a competitor to YouTube, only on the blockchain. And they launched that service back in September. And now they're doing some upgrades to their chain, including these smart contracts on the mainnet. I do feel that these guys do have a hotness to the upside. The next one is OmiseGO, which has been rebranded the OMG network. OMG has seen a big lift in relative tweet volume and trading volume lately, and that's on news that they were acquired by Genesis Block, which is a Hong Kong-based OTC firm. There they go. So 200% up, trading volume, relative trading volume up 97% with bullish long-term sentiment indicator on there. And, you know, Genesis Block is OGs in the crypto world. They do a lot of institutional action on the OTC side of things. So right now I'm looking at some positive momentum for OMG network to the upside as well. One that has been a standout is Voyager VGX. Now,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of us thought the machine was broken here for a couple hours, but VGX, and it's actually down today in its relative tweet volume a little bit. You can see there 900%. And do we have a chart for VGX at all, CJ?
VGX, they were up at like 2,400% of relative tweet volume earlier this week. Crazy.
Yeah, it was. They were pegged at the top of the social sentiment list on the indicators, but here you can see VGX on the chart right here. There's a lot of, I'm going to go with that. There's a lot of sentiment in that relative tweet volume because they just actually, did they complete it or are they still working on the merge?
I think they're still working on it. There was an announcement of a token drop of sorts based on social media activity. I think that's what drove it to a degree, Alex.
They've also released reward points or loyalty points too. Actually, you know, listen, CJ and Monty, these guys actually partner up with them over Market Rebellion. What's some of the latest stuff coming out from VGX?
Yeah, so the reason why we have such crazy numbers on the Trade the Chain tracker is because Voyager only has about 16,000 followers on Twitter, so they don't have a lot of engagement to begin with. But the increase was so drastic because they're coming out with some really cool stuff. As you can see, this loyalty program is pretty interesting. And what I really like about it is that it incentivizes larger traders to hold VGX passively because it allows them to have a boost in interest that they earn by 1.5%. So when you have USDC, that's already giving you 8.5% if you're just holding it passively. But if you have a certain amount of VGX over $12,000, then you're going to get a 10% boost on just USDC. So that's great for traders who want to exit positions on Voyager and just go into USDC because they're still receiving a ton of interest on it. So this is a great incentive to hold the token. There's also going to be cashback rewards in the form of a debit card. So a lot of interesting stuff happening with the Voyager token. They're also releasing their desktop beta in 2 weeks. And so the reason why we had this massive spike just a few days ago was because they announced that on Twitter as well, and there was a lot of engagement. But they did do a giveaway of 5,000 VGX about a few days ago. So I think that also can account for such a large increase in tweet volume that we've seen.
Okay, yeah, and now this is interesting because was Voyager having VGX power or reward anything prior to this, or have they turned this into a utility of kind of like BNB or Leo and kind of incentivize the platform users?
Yeah, the only thing they had previously was 3% interest. They also did have a boost though for Voyager. If you held over 5,000 Voyager tokens, you still get a boost in interest of 1.5%, I believe. You'd have to double check the website. But yeah, I mean, this is doing way more than BNB. I know BNB was only, its utility really came in the form of having 0 commissions on Binance. So when you traded BNB, you didn't have to pay commission fees. Voyager's already 0 commission to begin with. And they're providing all of these other use cases as well. So when it comes to competitor coins, I think Voyager's providing a lot more utility. Just whether or not they have the ability to grow and take a considerable of market share away from exchanges like Gemini and Coinbase, that's ultimately what they're going to have to do, not only to be successful themselves, but also to make the Voyager token adopted by many, many people.
Okay, perfect. And if we could just go back one quick, I have one last one on the screener page real quick. This is going to be Luna ticker, same as its name. This was a standout to me this morning Eastern time. And I, in full disclosure, put in a trade with Luna, and I did it for a couple of different factors. One was the 1 hour projection. Is something that I liked, I was comfortable with, but really it was that relative tweet volume, 361% up, that trading volume, 359% up. And not only that, but we have a very bullish and a bullish indicator on the daily and long-term sentiment, which is very overweight to the positive side. And then the last thing I really liked about this trade was the fact that it's up 1.15% in the 24 hours. And if you do decide to take a peek at the chart, we're not going to, but if you decide to take a peek at the chart, it's a sideways trading stock. There was low volatility in it. I liked it. It's nowhere near its all-time high. And it's also not, there's not a lot of hills and valleys that are correlated to Bitcoin. So I did like this for the short term. Ryan has a piece of news for us today from the comptroller of the currency. What are we looking at here? Is this going to be good or bad? I don't want bad news, Ryan.
No, I think this is all signs point to good news. And this is the second piece of positive news to come from the OCC. A relatively unknown government regulatory office to most people, I guess, at least in the crypto world until this year. Earlier this year, they said that nationally chartered banks could custody crypto assets. So that opened up a whole new avenue of institutional adoption for digital currencies, digital assets. And now the head of the OCC, Brian Brooks, is saying that he expects to have regulatory clarity, further regulatory clarity on Bitcoin by within the next few weeks, by the end of the term, so by the end of President Donald Trump's term. And the key point here, the key quote is, we're focused on getting this right. We're very focused on not killing this, right? So they want to make sure that when they approach Bitcoin from a regulatory standpoint, that they're not stifling innovation, and that they want to foster innovation while at the same time ensure that money laundering, terror financing, and other negative perception that people have of cryptocurrencies is kind of limited as much as possible. So I feel like this is a good thing, and I feel like perhaps this combined with the S&P Dow Jones indice announced yesterday could also serve to limit that downside. And potentially keep it at 15.5 rather than 10K. This feels like bullish news to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you, Ryan. And there's a lot of people that will say, and I'll admit, I used to kind of be in this camp as well, that any regulation is kind of strangling Bitcoin and counterintuitive to its decentralized ethos. But in reality, if you're a Bitcoin holder, this is very good for you because big players and institutions aren't going to fully like commit to coming into the space until there is this clarity that they're talking about here. So I think this is bullish news. And the fact that they're talking about just kind of eliminating negative stigma and not killing the asset. They have no intention of killing it. They know it's here to stay. Yeah, I think that's bullish news overall.
I did notice that it did mention something we spoke about last week, which was Brian Armstrong warning of negative regulatory actions against certain things in crypto. I saw that tied in, but how does that tie in here? There was nobody who said that's not going to happen, right?
I think maybe he just got his wires crossed. He probably heard from a credible person or source that there was regulation coming. And I think a lot of times the knee-jerk reaction, because the people at the top have spoken so negatively about crypto, Mnuchin, Trump, and others in the Democratic Party, who is, eventually taking control next year. I think maybe it was out of fear or out of concern, and him voicing that concern ahead of time. And, ultimately he was right that regulation is coming. I just think perhaps he was a little off the mark in terms of what type of regulation, unless Brian Brooks is just trying to throw up smoke signals ahead of what's really going to happen, and he's throwing us off the scent. Who knows? We don't know until it actually comes down. But I think that perhaps this is going to be more positive than negative.
All right, good stuff. Well, I mean, all in all, not a terrible week in crypto. Kind of gave us a little bit of a relief from last 2 weeks where we've had a lot of action going on. But thank you for joining us, everybody. Matt and CJ from marketrebellion.com. All their information's in the description below. And my co-host, Best Hair in Crypto, Ryan Gorman. And we will see you, unless something happens, next Friday.
Hi, everyone.
Thanks a lot, everyone.